Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Now You Know, In Depth.
Sometimes we're out of our depth.
Could be happening as we speak.
But not this week.
Really? All right, so there's been a lot of buzz this week on the forums about what's going to happen when the Model 3 comes out and the Superchargers are apocalyptically full.
Right. A lot of people are worried. They think, more cars on the road, that means just like if there were gas stations, your gas stations would fill up with cars. If you only had, the number of gas stations that there are Superchargers, you'd be in big trouble.
It would look like the 1979 OPEC oil shortage all over again, right?
So
that's what everyone's worried about. And I understand that you're worried about it, but I'm here to reassure you that I think everything's going to be okay. So this week, Teslanomics by Ben Sullins released a video on the apocalyptic Model 3, what could happen. He had some really good data, and we wanted to share some of that data with you and crunch it maybe a slightly different way. Ben is very worried about California because he lives in Southern California. And as we know, having traveled to Southern California, about half the Teslas live in California.
Right.
74,000 Teslas.
It's a huge number.
Huge number. And that is the state with the highest Tesla to supercharger ratio. So Troy over on the TMC forum has been putting together this awesome data chart. Thank you so much for doing that, where he tracks every quarter how many Teslas per supercharger there are in the world.
Okay.
And Ben was mainly looking at in his video what's going on in California, because what's different about California than the rest of the world or the country is that Tesla's idea about where to put superchargers generally has been to put them in kind of out of the way spots.
Yeah.
Right? Not, right in the middle of a city, things like that. Why? Because when you're traveling, you don't really need to go right into the heart of a city. You want to kind of go around a city to get your charge. But in California, there is really no out of the way spots. The state is so dense.
Right.
That if you want to put one in San Diego, for instance, where are you going to put it?
Right.
Other than somewhere in San Diego, we're just going to get a lot of traffic. So I do admit that California has its own kind of set of problems. Their ratio of Tesla to supercharger is 104.9. So that means 104 cars for every supercharger slot. And so, yeah, that's a lot, and that can give you cause of concern.
So is it apocalyptic?
Well, so the good news is, first of all, Tesla knows this, and they're going to be doubling the number of superchargers in the next year to 18 months.
Okay.
And so that's awesome. So even though the number of cars is going up, they are increasing the number of superchargers. Secondly, they're increasing the number of destination chargers. So again, a destination charger isn't the full charge that you get from a supercharger. It's anywhere up to 72 amps, but that can be great if you're going to a restaurant and so forth. So that's huge. But the other thing I want to mention is for all of you Model 3 owners out there yet to be,
right,
you're probably thinking that your only way to charge is at a Tesla supercharger. And I'm here to tell you that unless you're making a cross-country trip like Jesse and I do, you're mainly going to charge at home or at work.
Right.
And superchargers are going to be a very small percentage of the times that you charge.
Right.
Only when you're going on kind of a long trip. So most of the time, you're not going to be at a supercharger.
Right. And most of the time, I think for most people, you're just commuting back and forth to work in your car.
Right. And so that's why I want to say it's not going to be apocalyptic, first of all, because you're not going to use them that often. Secondly, when Teslas first started going on the road, they had unlimited supercharging like Sparky here does. And so you kind of in your mind were like, I'm always going to go to a supercharger.
Right, because it's free. It's fast and it's easy.
Let Elon pay for it.
Right.
But those days are over for all the new cars coming on the road since January 15th of this year. So you'll get 400 kilowatt hours of free supercharging every year, which is about 1,000 miles.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good, but it's not like you're going to go there every day, because otherwise you'd have to pay for it. And the second huge thing is that now there's this new charge, this new fee that you're going to get if you stay at a supercharger too long, right?
After you've charged. So for anyone that hasn't heard of this, basically, if you have fully charged at a supercharger and you're still parked there, plugged in, and the supercharger becomes closer to full, a majority of the slots are taken up, you'll be charged a fee
40 cents a minute
every minute that you're there.
Right.
And that is to make sure that people aren't just parking at superchargers and going off to work.
And that's going to make a huge, huge difference, because no longer will you have that mindset where I can just park here all day.
Right.
And that, for instance, if there was a supercharger at your work, you might have thought, oh, I'll just park here all day, and when I'm done at 5 o'clock, I'll leave.
Right.
But you can't do that anymore. So that in itself is going to make a huge, huge difference. So I don't think we're in apocalyptic stages. And that's why we wanted to just kind of touch on this, is that the data is great, and I think it's good to keep forcing Tesla to see the data and to keep building out, and especially in California. The number one country that has the highest ratio of Teslas to superchargers is the Netherlands. But what's cool is if you look at this chart here, you'll see that they were even higher last year. They were up around 100 cars per supercharger, and they nosedived this year because they built a lot of superchargers. So they can affect this number. The second thing about this in-depth that we wanted to cover is this cool patent that came out this week. Tesla had issued this, filed for this patent back in 2014. They updated it in 2016. And now we can kind of see the inner workings of this patent, and it's really cool. Please explain it.
So this is a very in-depth sort of look at this new patent. Basically, what it is instead of you plugging in your car, you would drive over something, and it would align itself and plug into your car. And it's not just electricity. In the patent, they basically say not only would we have an electricity hookup, we would also have like a coolant hookup.
Ooh.
So what that means is your car has a radiator, which is radiating the heat away from the car, and that's what cools the battery. You're throwing away the heat and you're pumping fluid through it, and then that fluid, when it comes out of the radiator, is cooler.
And that's the same pumping system and compressor system that does your air conditioning.
Yes.
They have cool valves that modulate where the coolant goes.
That can choose where the coolant goes. The only problem with that is your radiator is a limiter to how much heat you can throw away.
Oh. So this is why when we go to superchargers, many times we hear the air conditioner turn on.
Right. Basically what it sounds like with this is you'd have an external at the supercharger. It would have its own
like a giant commercial
heat thing, and it wouldn't have to drive it around, so it could be a lot more, it could be bigger and a lot more efficient. So what that means is that you could, what it sounds to me is that they're looking to update superchargers to be extremely fast. Because with the coolant, that means that you can pump a whole bunch more energy into it, because you can suck away all the heat that is generated when you're converting the electrical energy into chemical energy. And I think it's really cool also that it's in the ground. You don't have to plug it in, because that means that an autonomous Tesla can go charge itself in, say, like 5 minutes maybe, if we're talking about higher speeds than superchargers currently put out.
Because Elon did say in this tweet here, 350 kilowatts, child's toy. Like
he's thinking that we're going to be pumping a lot more juice into Teslas in the near future.
So does this mean that the Model 3 might be the first car to come with this new charging system?
It's possible. Elon is definitely excited to share something with us about the Model 3 at the unveiling. Whether it's going to be some kind of futuristic interior that we haven't seen yet, or something, I think it's going to, it's going to blow us away. Because he said that it's going to blow us away, and he generally
this is the one part of the car that we never look at.
That's true.
What we should do is we should get someone to leave a camera on the ground.
That's a good point. It's impossible to get a picture of the underside of the car.
Right.
So we don't know if that's something that the Model 3 and possibly other
so you guys
Teslas.
are out there in California. Next time you see a Model 3, and it's in the parking lot or something, go under the car. We need some photos under the car.
So it could be that. It could be for just in the future. I don't know, but it's very exciting. Another thing is, you might be worried about I'd have to spend 10 minutes adjusting my car to get it to perfectly line up. It looks to me that there's an XY stage underneath the car. Basically, that's just 2 stepper motors, so it would be able to, like a 3D printer, align itself and plug in directly.
Now, what's also cool is that whenever Tesla needs to pull building permits, they're public, and so there's this cool site called BuildZoom.com. You can go in there and check building sites all across the country, and if you check 45500 Fremont Boulevard, California, you will see all the permits that are being pulled for Fremont factory. And one of the permits that was pulled was, quote, a automated supercharger permit, which means they're probably testing maybe this design, maybe some other design, but they're testing it out at the factory.
That's
and
pretty exciting.
If they're getting a permit for it, that means they're going to build it if it hasn't been already, which means that they're thinking about this. So that is cool information. Anyone in that area who's driving around who could get us a picture maybe of, because I assume this is outside.
Yeah.
I would think, maybe not.
Maybe not.
But yeah, if we get a picture of it, that might tell us more. If it looks like a ground built thing, or whether it looks like a standard supercharger, I would just be, because a lot of people have conjectured that's going to be that snake-like thing that we saw that plugs in, and that it could be.
It could be.
What's cool about this idea is that we're talking a lot more juice.
Yeah, we're talking a lot more juice, and I think it makes a lot more sense than to have this weird snake charger. I think that the snake charger, at least to me, was a fun project that a bunch of people got to work on and sort of test out the concept of it. But I think it makes a whole lot more sense to have it underneath the car. No one's going to be able to tamper with it because people can jiggle the cord and
Sure.
what's up with this?
Now, can I also ask you, remember last week we talked about how the Model 3 seems to have a bigger charging port on the side.
Right.
Is it possible that that charging port has the inputs for the
For a coolant.
for the coolant? I don't know.
It could be possible. I mean, I was thinking that it was going to be the CSS DC fast charging, so that way you'd be able to utilize that network
be that
on
too.
top of the Tesla Supercharger network. So we'll just have to find out.
Yeah, these are all such cool things to be thinking about.
Yeah.
All right, if you have any thoughts or comments about what we've been talking about, because we were definitely out of our depth this week, please let us know what your thoughts are. Maybe you've got some cool pictures or something. That's how we find this stuff out and how we share it with the community. So please let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And now you know.